Chuck Schumer is without a doubt the most hapless politician unable to recognize the historical moment since Neville Chamberlain promised peace before the start of World War II. In the only opportunity for Democrats to exercise power over Trump, Schumer folded like a house of cards, stabbing House Democrats in the back in the process. Now he's in full spin mode, canceling his planned book tour because he knows he was going to get booed out of every venue, and showing up on any TV program he can to defend his outrageously bad decision. I'm going to show some of these appearances, which Schumer thinks are shoring up his reputation and approval, but are proving to do just the opposite. As you will see, what Schumer is doing instead is absolutely proving that he needs to step down, and that can't happen soon enough. Here is Chuckles the Clown showing up on The View with a mind to defending himself. As you'll see, what Schumer doesn't get here is that no one is buying what he's selling. Schumer insists that a government shutdown would have been worse than the bill that he signed. But what he always fails to acknowledge is that the specific bill he signed onto enshrines what Trump is doing and puts in provisions to bypass congressional approval. So instead of acknowledging that, Schumer just offers sound bites. Watch this.
And it gives me no pleasure to say this to you because we are friends, but I think you caved. I think you and 9 other Democrats caved. I don't think you showed the fight that this party needs right now because you're playing with by a rule book where the other party has thrown that rule book away.
True.
And so in my view, what you did really was in supporting that GOP partisan bill that Democrats had no input in, you cleared the way for Donald Trump and Elon Musk to gut Social Security, to gut Medicare, to gut Medicaid. Why did you lead Democratic senators to play by that book that the Republicans are not playing by?
Okay, first, I'd say, Sonny, no one wants to fight more than me, and no one fights more than me. You got to fight smart. It is not true. That bill had far less it was bad. I hated it. But it does far less damage to Social Security. Medicare, Medicaid are far more susceptible to being eliminated, which is what that horrible Musk. Can you imagine this guy Musk, a billionaire, saying $1,100 for a senior citizen is not necessary,
but aren't
or
there
a Ponzi
cuts
scheme?
in that bill?
There are many fewer cuts in that bill than that would be in a shutdown.
But they
it was
still
a bad
exist.
choice. So we got to. Yes, they exist. But if you have two choices, one bad, the other devastating. One chops off one of your fingers, the other chops off your arm.
So did you catch that pivot? First, the clever slogan about fighting. No one's buying it, Chuck. Then he tries to make the point that the bill does far less damage and pivots. He says nothing here. He makes an analogy. He never proves the point. And the point is, Schumer does not get it. He could have forced a clean spending bill by holding on, but he failed to do it. But what Schumer really fails to see is the historical moment.
I should be the leader. And let me just say this. One of the things I am known to be very good at is how to win Senate seats. In other words, I'm a strategist in terms of recruiting candidates, helping the candidates run campaigns and win it.
Here's the point, Chuck. If you were so good at getting people elected, you wouldn't be minority leader. And even more to the point, Chuck Schumer is now the kiss of death to any candidate. By his own admission, by his own criteria, Chuck needs to step down. He has no clue that he is not up to this historical moment. And because he can't recognize it, Chris Hayes tries to point it out to him. Watch.
What I would say is that all of those things you enumerated, which all sound like good politics to me, are the kinds of things that you'd be doing if Mitt Romney were president.
Ouch! If ever there were a death announcement on Schumer's career, it was that moment. Chris Hayes nailed it. But it only gets worse for Chuck. Watch this, but make sure you're sitting down before I show it.
That, there's this weird asymmetry right now, which is that they are acting in this totally new way.
Yes.
In which they are ambitiously trying to seize all power and create a presidential dictatorship in the United States of America. And the Democratic opposition is acting like, well, if we can get their approval rate down a few points, then what? What happens?
Well, what happens is, look, first, we get it way down. He's going to have much less. This worked in 2017.
Yes, you just heard right. Schumer is advocating that we just go back to the 2017 playbook. He's just admitted that he has no new ideas for how to respond to unprecedented assaults on our democracy. The media is screaming at Schumer that he just doesn't get it, and he can't hear it. Well, maybe there's something he can hear. Nancy Pelosi is telling him to step down. In classic Pelosi fashion, she took a lethal stab with what otherwise looks like a day-to-day observation, commenting on Schumer's cave-in by saying this. I myself don't give away anything for nothing, Pelosi told reporters during a news conference at a children's hospital in San Francisco. I think that's what happened the other day. Then Pelosi went on to say that there were alternatives. She completely undermined Schumer as a leader and as a strategist. This is exactly the kind of three-step movement she took to get rid of Biden. The other thing that Schumer does not see is that pretty soon the DNC is going to turn on him too. He won't be able to raise funds. He's the kiss of death on the campaign trail, and he has no appeal to independents who see him as weak. Already, independents and several Republican constituencies, like veterans and retirees, are flocking to Democrats. Bernie, Tim Walz, and AOC are proving that. The only thing that can prevent that migration from happening further is Chuck Schumer as minority leader. Chris Murphy from Connecticut is already out there auditioning for the job. So here's a heads up for Murphy and his staff. If you want the leadership job, then prove you are a leader and call the caucus to vote Chuck out. If you can't do that with all the support already behind you, then you're not a leader. So, okay, Senate Democrats, the handwriting is on the wall. It's time to cancel Charles in Charge. I'm Anthony Vincent Gallo for Occupy Democrats.